Best.
You gotta send it to me too, when you get a chance. Send it to me. Okay. One of the things that- Okay, so if I can have all of our PAC members come up to the front, right here. Yeah, anywhere you can come right on up here. This is gonna be the great photo op. So I'll have you line up here. So if I can have each of you raise your right hand. Right hand, Salama. I'm watching your right hand. There we go. Okay. You're going to repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Perfect. Congratulations. Hey Paloma, can we get a test on your audio on the Spanish channel? It's coming in a little bit choppy. That's perfect. We hear you great. Thank you. Testing. Test.
Oh. Good evening, everyone. So I want to welcome everyone in person and online to the regular meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee meeting of Wednesday, December 20th, 2023. I'm calling the meeting to order. And with that, I'll request Lieutenant Eberly to call the roll.
Good evening. Member Alm, Member Alvarez, Member Deputy, Member Kamina, Member Nguyen, Member Ruiz, Member Ruiz,
Carla.
Member Tokolahi, alternate Member Locks, and alternate Member Valdez. Thank you.
So at this, okay. Oh, I just wanted to remind our members seated on the dais, if you could turn your microphone off, and you'll see the red light indicating that your microphone is off. We don't want to catch any background noise or any cross communication. So with that, housekeeping note, I'll invite Lieutenant Eberly to address interpretation and public comment for the meeting.
Thank you, Angela. Before we begin, we would like to announce that tonight's meeting will include Spanish language simultaneous and consecutive interpretation provided by qualified interpreters on the Spanish channel. If watching on Zoom, you can join the Spanish channel by clicking on the interpretation icon in the Zoom toolbar. It looks like a globe. If you're attending in person and don't have access to the Zoom meeting from your mobile device, please come see me and I will get you set up with a device so you can listen to the meeting in Spanish.
Antes de comenzar, nos gustaría anunciar que la reunión de esta noche va a incluir interpretación simultánea y consecutiva en el idioma español, proveída por intérpretes calificados en el canal de español. Para unirse, haga clic en el icono de interpretación en la barra de herramienta de Zoom. Parece un globo terráqueo. Una vez que se una al canal de español, se recomienda que apague el audio primario para que solo escuche la interpretación en español.
As a
Como un
reminder,
recordatorio, le pedimos que cada uno de los participantes de esta noche hable despacio para permitir a nuestro intérprete que efectivamente exprese sus comentarios.
As a reminder, we ask that everyone participating tonight speak slowly to allow our interpreter to effectively express your comments. This meeting tonight is being recorded and members of the public can watch online or listen on phone by calling 669-444-9171 using the meeting ID 898-524-7245 hashtag.
Esta reunión está siendo grabada para miembros del público para ver en la
Mario.
internet.
Mario, I hate to interrupt you, but we do have this being simultaneously interpreted on the Spanish channel now. So we appreciate you, but we won't need this part interpreted.
There will be an opportunity for public comment for those participating in person. Each person will have 2 minutes to provide their comments. We invite each of you to introduce yourselves by name before presenting your comments. We are offering closed captioning for this event. This evening's meeting on Zoom, select the live transcript button on Zoom to enable this feature. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we're on to the minutes. No, ma'am. And now on to the minutes, this is our inaugural meeting, there are no meetings at this time. And so now we're on to the open time for public expression. And so at this time, we invite anyone in the chambers to approach the podium, and you will be allotted 2 minutes to speak on any matters not listed on the agenda.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Bartell. I'm with the Novato Police Advisory and Review Board. I came to congratulate not only the members newly sworn in of this board, but also the Chief Spiller and the entire department and the citizens of San Rafael and of all of Marin as you take this very important step towards public accountability. Congratulations and thank you all for serving.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi. Congratulations on your appointments. It's time to get to work to ensure that this isn't a performative checkbox committee and you don't become tokenized by the city. This work is rooted in love and compassion for our community and a belief that everyone deserves equity, dignity, and respect. We demanded transparency, accountability, justice, and police culture change. The city answered with an advisory-only committee that will act as a sounding board to the police. Please say no to this when you develop your bylaws tonight and work on other items. SRPD insists they are a small department, therefore they don't need oversight. The community knows that even in a small department, Julio Jimenez Lopez was brutally beaten by a field training officer, Brandon Nail, by a recent trainee, Daisy Mazariegos, and this was okayed by Corporal Oscar Ocon, who is also a training officer. We also know that Black, brown, and poor people in San Rafael are disproportionately impacted by policing. This is a culture problem. This is an institutional racism and classism problem. Your committee can and should work with the PD on culture change. The draft bylaws make it clear that this committee has no power and is advisory only. This committee should receive complaints from the community when people don't feel safe going directly to the police department, receive a report on complaints to analyze trends, be given RIPA data, and hold meetings for community input. They should have subpoena power. Please don't let this be advisory only performative coffee with the chief. Chief Spiller and Lieutenant Everly are nice and you should have coffee with them, but that should not be all that this committee does. There is a people's plan. Please check it out online. I will email it to you. This is what people wanted when we asked them what they wanted from this commission. You have the opportunity to make real positive difference in San Rafael. Please don't adopt bylaws that will prevent you from doing this. Thank you.
Buenas noches a todos. Buenas noches, Salama. Is someone is going to translate?
After your 2 minutes, it'll be interpreted consecutively into English.
I'd rather if you guys translate as I go along.
Simultaneously, there's no
Yes.
headsets, and because the meeting is recorded, we do need it to be consecutive.
Okay. Mi opinión sobre todo esta show que está pasando aquí, simplemente pienso de que no tiene función en ningún momento. Todo esto fue una cuestión demagógica. Esta cuestión de la comité no viene realmente de nuestra población latina. Yo lo digo porque soy un líder comunitario. A través de las reuniones que tuvimos con la ciudad múltiples veces, hicimos ver nuestra opinión realmente tangible que venía de la población. Pero veo de que esto fue una cuestión trabajado con las organizaciones no lucrativas, especialmente Canal Alliance. Siempre le hemos dicho, ellos no son nuestros representantes. Ellos son una organización que proveen servicios. Veo que hay muchos intereses grandes aquí. No son intereses del pueblo. Son intereses de institucionales. Y eso hace que la ciudad o las políticas no se adapten a las culturas y a las costumbres de nosotros, porque no somos escuchados. Y eso es grave. Lo hemos dicho que tenemos una sociedad allá afuera que nos está escuchando y sabe lo que hemos hecho y lo que hemos trabajado con la comunidad. Recientemente, nosotros tuvimos una reunión con la población donde tuvimos 80 miembros de la comunidad del canal. Les preguntamos que si sabían de lo que está pasando aquí sobre el comité. Todos ellos no tenían una idea. No tenían idea exactamente de lo que está pasando aquí. Y luego, una de las personas que es conocedora de todo la demanda del pueblo, lo cual es Samala, lo dejan como
I would say
alternativa
you're past your time, sir.
dentro de la comunidad. Gracias.
Mario?
Use us for one moment while we handle the interpretation services. Apologies again, we're just trying to get the interpretation services for the previous comment.
Mario, are you still on the call?
Jesús del Huerto, ¿y tú? Estoy en el español. Jesús.
Mario, you've been unmuted. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Were you able to capture the comments from our public member?
No, sorry, I wasn't. I was expecting Paloma to do it.
Okay, so you'll be interpreting any comments that are submitted in Spanish, and you'll be consecutively interpreting them into English on this channel.
Okay.
Okay,
all
so
right.
I'm gonna invite the gentleman up who spoke previously. I'm so sorry.
Queremos invitar a la persona que pasó antes de decidir. Lo sentimos mucho.
De nuevo, buenas noches.
Again, good night. Good
Como
evening.
dije hace ratos,
As I
este
said
comité que
before,
fue elegido no va a funcionar para la comunidad del canal.
this committee that was selected is not going to function for the community at the canal.
¿Por qué razón? Porque fue una elección a través de demagogia e intereses institucionales.
For what reason? Because this was done through demagogic interest. Institutional demagogic
Como le dije
interest.
hace ratos, Canal Alliance es una institución no lucrativa que no debe de representar a nuestra comunidad. ¿Por qué razón? Porque ellos son una organización que tienen que proveer servicios y no representación de nuestra comunidad.
And that committee will not represent the interests of our community because they don't represent our own interest and represent some other interests.
Lo digo porque Canal Alliance fue la formación de Voces del Canal.
I said because Canal Alliance was the formation of Voices of the Canal.
Y esto no deja que tenga la población una representación auténtica.
And this would not allow for the population to have a real, authentic representation.
Recientemente nosotros tuvimos una reunión con la comunidad donde tuvimos 80 miembros del canal.
Recently, we had a meeting where we had 80 members of the canal.
Esto fue hecho por la Liga de Justicia y mi persona.
This was done by the Justice League and my own person.
Y cuando le preguntamos a cada miembro que si sabía exactamente de lo que estaba pasando de la elección del comité, ellos no tenían absolutamente idea de lo que estaba pasando.
And when we asked each member if they had any idea of what was going on with the election of this committee, they responded that they had no idea whatsoever of what was going on.
Esto es preocupante cuando la población no sabe de lo que está sucediendo sobre esta elección de comités.
This is worrisome when the population doesn't know what's going on these elections of committees.
Y es bueno que lo sepan porque queremos que nuestra sociedad se informe realmente de lo que está pasando alrededor de nosotros.
And it is good for you to know because I think it is a good thing if our own society gets informed about what is going on around us.
Queremos transparencia.
We want transparency.
Queremos que las instituciones se adapten culturalmente a nuestras necesidades.
We want the institution to adapt themselves to our own needs.
Queremos que esto cambie,
We want these things to change.
pero no cambia si no somos escuchados por las instituciones que nos representan supuestamente a nosotros, la gente.
But it won't change unless we would be heard by the institutions that supposedly are representing us, the people.
No queremos más demagogia, queremos tangibilidad en estas cuestiones tan importantes que nos afecta a nosotros como población del canal.
We don't want any more demagoguery. We want responsibility with this institution that would represent the people from the canal.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
At this time, are there any remaining speakers before we close public comment?
¿Hay alguna otra persona en el público que quisiera hacer un comentario público?
Seeing none, we will close public comment at this time and we'll move on to the special presentation section of our agenda. First on the agenda is welcome and introductions of committee members with Christine Lilovich, our city manager, and Chief David Spiller of the San Rafael Police Department.
Las personas van a leer ahora las minutas de la agenda. Van a hacer las introducciones del comité de los miembros, Cristina Ilovich, y el gerente de la ciudad, y el
Are we good to go? Okay. Good evening, committee members. I'm Christina Lilovich. I'm your city manager, and I wanted to welcome you here to City Hall. And I wanted to start with some gratitude for your service, for your willingness to step up to this really important task at this time to help the city, to help the community, to help myself, the police chief, on behalf of our elected officials, our city council, who unfortunately there was a very time-sensitive hearing upstairs that needed to happen before the end of the year. So I just want to extend on behalf of all of them and city staff how important this work is, how much we appreciate you being here, how much we want you to feel like this is your home. This is kind of an intimidating environment sometimes to be up here with the microphones and the whole thing. And we know you're new to this role, so please feel at home and at ease. And if at any point you want to stop and ask a question of myself or the clerk or your staff liaisons here are here to support you. So I just want you to feel safe and encouraged to at any time ask a question, and we're gonna help be a support and help you through this. So I just thank you so much for being here tonight, and I want to turn it over to Chief Spiller, who has some opening comments as well. Thanks.
Terrific.
Chief.
Thank you, City Manager Lilovich. I want to echo the sentiments of gratitude. I want to welcome each of you and thank you all for your commitment and your willingness to serve and help the police department improve and advance. So we're here, we've arrived tonight because we've heard a desire from our community to develop a process for deepening and fostering trust between the police department and the community, as well as implementing a mechanism for accountability for our work serving you, our community. So in the wake of significant community outreach and feedback that we've received, staff from the city, including the city manager's office, the city clerk, the office of the mayor and vice mayor, have developed this committee. Each of you as members of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee have applied and interviewed multiple times for this role, and you've committed to lending your voice and your perspective and your experience, your lived experience in our community. All of this to help us improve as an organization. So I'm excited about the formation of this body. I'm excited about the formation of the Advisory and Accountability Committee, and I'm grateful for each of you that have stepped up. So at the onset of your work, I want to again extend my gratitude for your willingness to serve in this role. For the sake of the community, those at home watching, and each of you, I'd like to invite each of you to just introduce yourself in a brief moment so you can all kind of begin this journey together as a committee. So we'll go down the line if you'd like to introduce yourself. Sorry, I started at this side.
Thank you. My name is Carla Valdez, and I have been living in Canal like for 17 years. I have 2 kids, grown-up kids, but and I love living in the Canal, and I'm glad to be part of this, and I hope we can make a difference. And yeah, thank you.
Hi, uh, my name is Fatai. I'm Tongan, I'm Pacific Islanders. So I got this a lot in the community. A lot of folks that speak Spanish. I apologize, I don't speak the language. I'm learning about it. But they always got me like, oh, we think you're one of us. I'm like, yeah, I'm one of you, but I'm Tongan. Like I'm catching up. I'm getting there. I've been here in San Rafael since 2009. And I wanted to do this. In my line of work, I work with the homeless folks. I manage an outreach team here in the county, and we cover the whole county. We started with one, and now there's 8 of us in that line of work. And I wanted to do this because I wanted to bring in the voice of the community, like folks on the ground, like grassroots. Link them to decision makers and policy makers. Any way we can do to channel that to the folks up here, executive roles. I wanted to be the voice of folks on the ground, like people who see what's going on every day. And I hope I can do justice by joining this committee. So thank you.
Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Darlene Ruiz. Yo soy de México
My name is Aileen Ruiz.
y vivo en Canal hace 22 años.
I'm living in the Canal for 22 years.
Yo he sido voluntaria por 13 años en mi
I've
comunidad.
been a volunteer for 13 years.
Me gusta hacerlo.
I love doing it.
Me gusta ser parte de mi comunidad y aportar lo más que yo pueda para ayudar a mis vecinos donde vivo.
I like being part of my community and give as much as I can to help my neighbors.
Yo le quiero dar las gracias por la oportunidad que nos están dando. De verdad, yo sí se lo agradezco. Y pues aquí estoy en apoyar lo más que pueda y ser la voz de mi comunidad siempre.
I
Gracias.
want to give you thanks for the opportunity you're giving me. I want to tell you how appreciative I am for giving me the opportunity to to be the voice of my community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mi Yung Nguyen or Mai Nguyen. I live in Canal about 20 years, more than 20 years, but I'm new, totally new to the cities. I participate in my community's activities, just Vietnamese, and I am familiar with some of the activities in the city as well as in my communities. And I'm here just hope that I will bring my Vietnamese voice to the city, to the whoever can listen to them about their concerns, about safeties, about some of the activities for beneficiary for the communities in the city. So I hope I will connect between my Vietnamese and the city so that they can we can have a voice to be heard. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hello, my name is Paula Kamina. I've been retired for some time, but I have worked for Marin County since aging myself since 1968. And I have lived here for the past 26 years. I started out as a juvenile probation officer and then went to law school at nighttime and became a prosecutor, and then was the elected district attorney until I retired in 2004. So I am pleased to be here. I'm grateful to meet all my new best friends. And I hear you in the community, and I think we're all here for the same purpose, to see if we can advance any policies, to be transparent. And thank you very much for appointing me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dariush Davidi. I just first want to thank those two people who spoke up. Even though I don't speak Spanish, but I really felt your passion, what you were sharing. I know you had to go twice and it was very consistent. So I want to thank you for sharing. My family moved to this country when I was 13. I grew up on welfare. I live in Marin. I feel blessed living here. I grew up in San Fernando Valley in a poor neighborhood, but I was educated, got my PhD in psychology, work in the inpatient psych unit with the 5150 unit, with the homeless population, with the adolescent and adult population. And then I started my own business, moved to San Francisco. I have a warehouse in Canal. I'm very impressed with how united the Canal District is. They really are local heroes of this community. And I just want to thank the opportunity and this platform to serve and bring this community together. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Alvarez. I am 17 years old and I'm a high school student. I live in Canal currently and was raised here. I hope that I can help youth voices here in San Rafael be able to speak up of their worries, and not just youth, but also Latin America and yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Alm. I live in the West End neighborhood of San Rafael. Been here for 20 years. I'm excited to work with all of you guys. We have a big task ahead of us. We have a lot of hard work to do, and I think we have a great team selected, and I'm grateful for everyone that's been involved in all of this. I hear everyone out there in the community. I want what you want too, and we'll do our best to get us there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Salama Locks, and I am one of the originals from the Justice of Marin grassroots group that helped get us to this point. We will not be starting from the very basic. We're going to start from the area of which we've grown to. We're going to take in all of what the community has said and be able to apply it appropriately. I am a queen of writing bylaws, and I want to be part of writing the bylaws. When there is change, there's uncomfortableness, but that's how we get to doing things better. I'm for change. I've spoken with the chief, and he knows that what I would like is to have a police department that's filled with thinking members, not reactionary members. Critical thinking is what I teach and practice. And that's what I will share and bring to this committee as an alternate. So I do feel that my District 4 is not fully represented because I will not have an opportunity to vote. Thank you.
So thank you all for your self-introductions, and again, in advance of the work that you've all committed to on behalf of the city manager's office and the police department. Thank you for your commitment and thank you for your work. With that, I'll turn it back to our interim chair.
All right. Thank you, Chief. At this time, I would like to invite members online of the community online or in our chambers for public comment. You'll be allotted 2 minutes. And if you're in chambers, please approach the podium if you would like to make a comment at this time.
Sorry, briefly, we're going to need to toggle our interpreters. So Marco, you're going to go on to the Spanish channel, and Paloma, we're going to bring you over into the original audio. And just as a brief correction, we're only going to be receiving public comment in the chambers tonight.
Thank you for clarifying that. My apologies.
Chicos, en persona, no en Zoom. Gracias.
Seeing, are you, apologies, are you, just want to make sure you're done with before we proceed?
Yes, Mario is on the Spanish channel and I see Paloma here. I'm going to go ahead and mute you now, Paloma. And just a reminder, you'll be consecutively interpreting any Spanish comments into English.
All right, seeing no members of the community have approached the podium, we can proceed to the next item, which is a presentation. It is an introduction to the Brown Act, which will be presented by Genevieve Coyle, Assistant City Attorney, and an introduction of the public meeting process by Lindsay Lara, our City Clerk. And so I'll give Genevieve a moment to set up. In just one moment, she'll be sharing her screen and then she'll proceed with her presentation.
Good evening, everyone. We have a few little technical difficulties here, so we'll wait to start the presentation until we can get the slides up. But I was a little bit late to this meeting because I was on another one earlier, but I was glad to be here to hear all of your introductions. And just from on a personal note, I'm really impressed and happy to see the diversity on the team, and welcome to the city, and appreciate your service on the committee. Great. All right. Well, we're ready to roll. All right. Welcome everyone. I'm the Assistant City Attorney for San Rafael, Genevieve Coyle. And I'm here to give you an introduction and primer on the Brown Act, which is the basic government California law that governs how public meetings of legislative bodies are conducted.
Just let me know when
Yep.
you'd like me to
Okay.
advance.
Oh, you're advancing them.
I'm
Okay,
driving.
sorry. The Ralph M. Brown Act regulates meetings of legislative bodies. And the basic rule of the Brown Act is that all of the meetings of a legislative body must be open and open to the public. This includes all different types of meetings held, which includes a regular meeting, which is what is being conducted tonight, which is a regularly scheduled meeting of the committee. And it can also include any kind of special and emergency meetings. And there's another category of meetings, which I'm going to get to, because those are usually the more difficult ones to identify. And it applies to all legislative bodies of state and government agencies, including local agencies. So in our case, of course, it includes the city council, but it also includes all of our boards, commissions, and committees and subcommittees, and that includes you as our new PAC. Can you toggle? Great. So I talked about that it is the law that regulates the conduct of meetings. And so it's important for you to know what is a meeting under the Brown Act. So the definition of a meeting under the Brown Act is any gathering of a majority of the members of a legislative body. The meeting would occur at the same time and location. And it also includes any meeting where those members hear, discuss, deliberate, or take action on any item under its subject matter jurisdiction. So tonight's meeting would definitely qualify as a public meeting, which is why we have a public agenda, that was issued under the Brown Act, and that members of the public are invited, and public comment is part of the process. It also includes some difficult kind of situations which are harder to identify, and these are the areas that you really need to look out for during your service on the PAC. And there's kind of two examples here on the slide, and these are called what we call serial meetings. So one type of a meeting is described as a daisy chain, and that's where if member A contacts member B, and then member B contacts member C, and so on, and they're discussing a matter that is under the jurisdiction of the committee, that is considered, and if that happens until a quorum occurs, that is considered a serial meeting and would be a violation of the Brown Act. The other type of meeting is what's called a hub and spoke, and that's where one member of the committee. Oh,
We're going to need a brief second
Yeah.
for interpretation. One moment.
great.
Okay, Mario, I see now you're unmuted, so you'll go ahead and be simultaneously interpreting this portion into Spanish, please.
We ready? Okay, I think we're up and running. Can you get the slide back up? Okay, so I went over what was called the daisy chain, which is if one member contacts another member, that member contacts another member, and so on and so forth. That is considered a meeting under the Brown Act. And if members were to engage in that type of communication, that would be a violation of the Brown Act. Another type that's harder to identify is what's called a hub and spoke. And that's the type of meeting under the Brown Act where one member reaches out to other members and contacts enough members of the committee whereby a quorum has reached. And if they discuss a matter under the jurisdiction of the committee, that is also considered a Brown Act violation. Can you go to the next slide? So what this is really telling us is that generally, as a best practice, you should not be reaching out to other members of the committee to discuss items that are within the jurisdiction of the committee or under your subject matter jurisdiction. And you should be saving those discussions for when you're meeting in an open public comment that's properly agendized and where the public can attend and voice their opinions and comments. One of the areas that we see where a meeting can unintentionally occur is through emails. So what you want to do is avoid sending emails to the whole body. If you have a matter that you need to discuss via email, the best practice is that you contact your staff liaison. They will accept the email and then respond to you accordingly. Generally, what you'll see from staff is that staff will not send emails out to all of you on the to line. We'll put you on BCC, and that way, if you reply to the email, you don't unintentionally violate the Brown Act by replying all. Because if you were to reply all and it contained information about a matter within your jurisdiction, you'd be potentially violating the Brown Act. So we don't want to kind of unintentionally kind of engage in those types of communications. So like I said, you want to be very careful replying to emails. You do not want to communicate your position or make a commitment on a pending matter in an email. And you should not reply to a majority of the legislative body in an email. And so really, you just want to really think carefully when you're engaging in email communications. Now, under the Brown Act, individual meetings are not covered. And so a city employee or official, you can engage in separate conversations outside of a meeting. You can do that to answer questions or provide information, and that's as long as you are not communicating to members of the legislative body your comments or positions to other of your members. So really what this kind of means in practice is that if you were perhaps meeting with a constituent in San Rafael, and you were there to hear them discussing sort of their opinions on various police matters, the best practice for you is to say that you are there to listen and that you won't be making any decisions or determinations on the matter until after a public meeting that is properly noticed under the Brown Act. And that also just ensures kind of fairness in the process. City Clerk Lara will probably be talking a little bit more about the agendas, but I just want to touch on the agendas, that they always contain a brief description of each item of business that's going to be discussed on the meeting. Any action or discussion on that item that does not appear on the posted agenda cannot be discussed in the meeting. There are a few exceptions to these. They're articulated here on the slide. You can briefly respond to public statements, questions. You can ask questions for clarification. You can make brief kind of announcements or updates on your activities. You can provide references to staff, and you can also ask staff to report back on items that are not on the agenda. But baseline rules that you need to be very careful that you don't engage in any discussions on an item or a matter that is not in the agenda in the meeting in which you are currently sitting in. I also mentioned that all of the meetings also will provide opportunities for public comment, and you'll see all of that in your agenda packets. This is a little bit related to the Brown Act, but I do want to touch on it, and this is an issue of public records. So all of your records, your communications, and any written work that you're doing in your official capacity on the PAC is considered a public record. When we get requests for public records under the Public Records Act, the city must disclose them to the public with some certain exceptions. So a public record is any writing that contains information related to the conduct of the public's business. It's prepared, owned, used, or retained by a local agency, and that's regardless of its form or characteristic. I do want to highlight for you that that would also include information on, for example, private phones, computers, and other personal devices. So you want to make sure that all of your public, communications are taken with the understanding that those are public records that are potentially disclosed to the public upon request. And with that, I think I just have a questions page. So I'm happy to open it up to any questions that you may have. Going forward, you might, it's very often that you might be in a situation where you have a question on the Brown Act. I would encourage you to contact your staff liaisons, and then they'll be able to answer that for you or bring me into the process for some advice. So feel free anytime that you have any questions on these matters that please reach out to your staff liaison, and we'll help get you the advice to stay on the right side of the Brown Act.
All right. Are there any questions from the committee at this time regarding Ms. Coyle's presentation? Yes.
So that, just to clarify, the staff liaison will be Scott?
Yeah.
Who's?
There's,
Scott?
there's two staff liaisons. The
Okay.
staff liaison to the city manager's office is Assistant City Manager Angela Robinson Pignon, and the staff liaison to the police department is Lieutenant Scott Eberly. So
Okay.
both will be connected to this body.
Okay, cool. My other questions regarding what you say about public, so like community meeting, if we decided to sit in any of these meetings. Basically, this is what I saw it is to be present, but not participate. Am I right?
Microphone.
Thank you, sorry. So in this example, are you perhaps referring to a community meeting that the city is not calling, but you're attending in your personal capacity or as?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah. So unless there's any, so in those cases, you wouldn't be deliberating or hearing of any matter that's before the police commission, before the police committee. So you're welcome to attend those meetings and, are certainly, I think, encouraged to. Where you want to be careful is if you're attending those with more than a quorum of your peers here. That's where you would potentially be running into violations of the Brown Act.
Are there any other questions?
Yes.
So a few weeks ago, a couple of us ran into each other at a community meeting and made introductions. If we hit the point of quorum, do we need to disperse?
No, there's certainly kind of social niceties, as long as you're not discussing any matter that is before the committee or under your subject matter jurisdiction, you're of course welcome to, say hello, meet, and sort of the normal kind of
Makes sense.
social norms. You just want to be careful that you're not bringing up or discussing any matters that, again, are within your kind of official work for the committee.
I like to take personal notes for myself. Are those public record?
If you are taking personal notes,
right
for
now.
example, like right now.
Yeah.
Well, let's, can you pull up that slide and let's just walk through, it's helpful to just walk through the, I want to say they are, but.
While you do that, I just want to make an additional comment just to add on to what Genevieve was saying about the Brown Act and the purpose of it. That always helps remind me of why are these rules in place in the first place. And it's the intentionality around it is in order to allow an equitable and fair public process, right? So it's like, it's not that we're trying to constrain you from talking to one another, but what we don't want is for there to be a quorum meaning like four, right? In this case, a quorum is four people were talking and said, oh yeah, we should really vote this way. And you kind of predetermine what your decision is going to be, or the majority of you might, if you were to determine your decision before hearing public comment, before hearing public participation. So the purpose of it really is to make sure that the public process is open and fair and everyone is heard and everything is considered before you deliberate as a body and make a decision. So that's always helpful for me to remember. Because it is sometimes hard. It's like if I talk to one person and then they talk to somebody else, like we don't want you to be worried about this. We just want you to be mindful of it. And if you ever have questions, you've got resources here to help you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. The answer to your question is yes, that would be a public record, because if you look at the factors here, it would be any writing. If it contains information related to the conduct of the public's business, and in this case, if your writing relates to the business of the committee, that would be the case. It's prepared, owned, used, or retained by a local agency, and in this case, you are an official of a local agency. and it's regardless of its form. Yes.
Yes, recognizing Member Locks.
I sit on the commission, the Marin County Commission on Aging, and we are able to take personal notes about what's proceeding at our general meeting or any of our committee meetings. And those personal notes do not become part of the official notes. So I'm not aware of this practice that think I'm hearing you say.
So I'm not familiar with the Committee on Aging and kind of the practices around that, but what I will say is that there might be a distinction here between public records that become part of the official record, for example, of a meeting, such as now, versus any general public record that's created as the city does its work. So I can kind of even just use myself as an example. I work here daily. I'm creating public records every day just by doing my work. It doesn't become kind of an official record as part of a category of information. All it means is that it's potentially subject to public disclosure if somebody were to ask for that record.
If I can hop in on that too. So if someone was to submit a request because they saw you taking notes for your notes, it could be disclosable per the Public Records Act. So that's what she's referring to. If that kind of clears it up, there may have not been a request. There may have never been a request for your notes, but if there were, it could be disclosable.
How would I archive that then? Handwritten stuff.
Depends on the public record. Yeah.
When it's handwritten, it is a little bit more complicated. It can be considered transitory documents. If it's on your iPad, sometimes we always send the agenda packet in Adobe. You received it in Adobe. You can occasionally write notes if you keep those and you've received a request. If you don't have it, then you don't have it. It could be considered transitory, and there could be reasons that you wouldn't maintain that. But if you have the record and there was a request submitted for that to be disclosed, you would have to provide it.
I'll keep a file.
That's what I do.
Just want to make sure that the contents of the meeting, if I discuss with some of my friend in a neighbor or whoever in the communities or neighbor, is that a violation of Brown Act?
We very much so want you to talk with your neighbors in your community about the topics that we talk about here. So there's no violation of the Brown Act. It only has to do with the members and having like 4 or more members talking about something at the same time that you're going to be talking about here. But no, please, we very much want you to talk to your community and get their input and ideas to bring back to the committee.
My only concern is that I'm looking here, like there's like 4 of us here who live in the canal. And it's, it's a small area. You guys will probably run into each other every day, pretty much. I go do my shopping in the canal. I live not too far from the canal. I'm like 2 minutes drive there. I go there all the time. He works there, so it's, I don't know, out of the 9, I would say like 7 of us could be running into each other in the canal, like,
Yep. And that's actually perfectly fine and anticipated and expected. So by no means are we saying that you cannot see each other or engage with each other outside of a public meeting. The only restriction under the Brown Act is that you do not discuss any matters that are within the subject matter of the committee. You can talk about family, friends, what you're doing for your weekends, how your, children are doing, all of those topics. There's just going to be a carve out where you just want to be careful that you're not discussing business of the PAC. Yeah.
Are there any other questions from our committee members? All right.
Wait, I have just one more clarification because I wasn't really clear. So whatever we write here tonight stays here? No.
No,
So
you're-
I can take it home with
You
me.
take your notes home with
Oh,
you.
sweet.
You take your notes. They will not
See?
become,
She was sitting on it too, so.
they will not become part of the official record of this meeting. They're your personal notes.
Yeah,
I
yes.
just want to make a compliment. I think you made the right panel here. Everyone's really conscious about transparency and how we conduct ourselves. So I'm interpreting this as we really take this seriously and we want to make sure we do a good job. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that, to throw that in there.
And I agree. The excellent questions. The more you ask about these means that we're serious about it and really trying to make sure that we're understanding it so that you can do your work. So it's great.
Any more comments before I go to our members of the public and chambers? All right, seeing none, at this time we invite, oh, my apologies. We have a second part of the presentation. Yes, with Ms. Laura, City Clerk.
Thank you. I'm Lindsay Lara. I'm the city clerk for Santa Fe. First, I want to say this can feel really formal and really stuffy. And it's a lot of what we're hearing about in the Brown Act and what I'm going to talk a little bit about, which is called parliamentary procedure. Probably haven't heard it. I love it. But if you have, hopefully you'll love it too by the end of your 4 years on the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. And it's just a little bit about how the meeting is run. And so while it feels rigid, it's because we're following these rules. While it feels like it could be stiff, it's because we're following the Brown Act. We're following these rules that are placed on us to help us have a transparent meeting for the community, to have an effective meeting, an efficient meeting for the committee and for staff. So there's going to be a few things that come up in the meeting, and you'll see there's kind of the cheat sheets are all in front of you, and there's an order that everything should be in. And I'm just going to briefly go over that order and why we have that order. And it's going to slightly tie into what Genevieve was talking about with the Brown Act. So whenever there's the beginning of an item, the chair, who right now there is no chair, but Angela will call the item forward. Staff would give a presentation on the item, or like we just did, Genevieve just did, and I am now. And then following that, there's the questions part. And it's not your time for deliberations. It won't be your opinions. It won't be what you think. It won't be that you hate parliamentary procedure or you love parliamentary procedure. It's just going to be questions about parliamentary procedure. And then following all of the questions being answered by the committee, it'll open up to the public. And that's going to be the public's opportunity to ask any questions of staff or give their opinions about whatever topic is being discussed at that time. And once all of public comment has been heard, we close public comment, and the chair will typically ask staff to respond to any of the questions that were posed by the public during the meeting. And then once all of those questions have been answered, that's the opportunity for the committee members to weigh in on their opinion. And I'm going to give a little bit of a why around that. There should be no decision made by the committee until public testimony has been heard at all. There's going to be experts in this community that are going to come out and are going to be more experienced or more knowledgeable about any given topic that's going to show up on the agenda, and that they may bring an opinion that you haven't yet considered. So we don't want to have that decision predetermined before the meeting. Keep your mind open, hear all of the public testimony before you come to any decisions. And it kind of goes right back into the Brown Act and not talking about everything before the meeting. It's because nothing should be decided. Nothing should be, sometimes I think you hear, oh, the minds were made up beforehand. Not if you're following the Brown Act. The minds aren't made up beforehand. If you're following the Brown Act, everything is happening live, and it could look a little clunky. You're seeing our tech issues. You're seeing us live, how it works. This isn't planned. We can run as many times as we want. We can try to get it right, but ultimately this is going to be live. So that's a little bit about the process. Once deliberations has taken place and we've heard all of the comments from our committee members, at that point, the chair, typically after everyone's been heard, the chair will request a motion. And that recommended action is always listed on the agenda. It's a part of the Brown Act. We have to have a recommended action on each agenda item, unless it's a special presentation or it's open time. If there's an action that staff is hoping that the committee is going to take, it'll say recommended action, you'll see it on the council, adopt resolution or accept report or provide feedback to staff on tonight's agenda. Nominate a chair. I'll use that as an example. Once that conversation comes up, we'll go through that exact same process we just discussed. There'll be some conversation, and then someone will make a motion to nominate a member on this committee to become the chair and become the vice chair. Once a motion is made, another committee member will second the motion. Following a second, there will be a vote. It'll be a roll call vote by Staff Liaison Lieutenant Eberly, and he'll go through every person's name, and you'll have to verbally state in the microphone, yes or no. Just another side bit around the meeting procedures. We're in this room tonight. It feels extra formal because of that. So I understand that feeling and that sentiment. And the microphones, why are they important? And the reason they're important is because you have folks that aren't here tonight, but there's people on Zoom. I can see them right now. They're watching this meeting. They're watching the way that it's going. And if your microphone's off, they can't hear anything that you have to say. So the reason that I'm being so specific around, oh, please turn on your microphone. I don't mean to hound you, but I just want to make sure that everyone, whether they're here or not, can hear everything that you have to say. Anyone who has accessibility needs is able to hear what you have to say or use our transcript online as well. So that's just a little bit about parliamentary procedure and how these meetings will operate. And I think that concludes my portion of the presentation. So thank you, and I'm excited to be here, and welcome to PAC.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lara. So are there any questions on this portion of the presentation from the committee? All right, seeing none, we'll go to council chambers to see if there are any members of the public that wish to speak on the Brown Act presentation or parliamentary procedures for this committee. Seeing none, I will close public comment. And seeing that there are no additional comments from the committee, we can proceed to the next item, which is another presentation, which is a history and overview of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee from Francine Tornar, Director of the Office of Police Oversight for the City of Long Beach. And
Francine, just give us 1 minute to toggle the interpreters, please. Okay, we're ready. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, committee members. My name is Francine Tornar/Carriage, and I am currently the Director of the Office of Police Oversight with the City of Long Beach. I'm also currently putting together my own Police Oversight Commission. So I do want to welcome you all to this very important role that you have with this inaugural group. Do not feel like it shies in importance when it comes to what's needed for the community and the role you play in that. So I do apologize. I'm very much anti-PowerPoint, so you'll just have to sit here and listen to me talk and watch me read. I kind of suck at those, so I didn't want to belabor you with staring at the screen and watching me read it to you. So what I really want to cover right now, for those of you and those who are online who don't know where we came, how we came to be to where we are, is just cover a little bit of the incidents that brought us to this place. And I just want to mention that this is one of the very first steps in building and rebuilding the relationship that the community has with the police department. So one of the most important components that's needed for any police department to be effective is trust, and that trust needs to be with the community. And as you all know, there was an incident that happened in the summer of 2022 where the relationship between the San Rafael Police Department and parts of the community was very much fractured based on one decision that was made by a previous former police officer. So with that said, this committee is part of the rebuilding of trust and maybe the initial building for other people, and maybe continuing to start the healing process for some in the community. So please do not take your roles lightly with what you are here to do today. And it is important that you tap back into the community and be in touch with them regarding their needs and what they desire for you to represent on their behalf. Right after the incident, there was a lot of work done by members of the city manager's office, the police department, as well as your elected officials to get out in the community and have conversations in response to the incident that took place. And that effort was done to repair any trust that had already been broken. And a series of meetings took place throughout the community. Maybe some of you were able to attend those, as well as conversations that took place with members of the high school to get their input on what does safety mean to them. And that's really why we are here. Although some of the topics that were brought forward by these meetings does not fall into the responsibilities of the police department and the authority that they have jurisdiction over, it was important that the city ensured that every resident of San Rafael felt safe in their neighborhood. So there was a bunch of different topics that came up, and some of those things you will work on with your duties as committee members. And I want you to really understand that your role is to really stand in the gap for those who are not comfortable with coming forward, for those who may not feel like it's a safe environment for them to be heard. So you have to engage your community members. You have to listen to the things that they're telling you regarding what's important to them and figure out how you can make that work with the authority that you currently have. So some of these meetings took place between October of 2022 and March of 2023. And we're going to go into a little bit later when we talk about the bylaws, but there were particular buckets, we call them buckets, but there were particular areas of concerns that were consistently heard from members of the committee. And we tried to basically put those in different areas where we can figure out how the community and the police department can better have relationships around those areas. So prior to standing up this committee, there was a lot of research that was done to determine how to make you all as effective and efficient as possible to make sure that you can do the best work that's needed for the city of San Rafael. Being an oversight practitioner for over 17 years, I will promise you that there is no one size fits all. When I started off in 2006, I was an office of one person. I had absolutely no authority to do anything. But through working relationships, I was able to do more than, honestly, most of the local oversight agencies or even throughout the city of California. So, or the state of California. So when you look at your bylaws and you're moving forward to figure out how to determine what your work will look like, just keep in mind that the bylaws are the foundation. With the work that you will do and the agenda that you will set and the different things that you will look at, that's where you build in the work that needs to be done on behalf of the community. So the bylaws are merely the foundation, and the work that you do will come across with your agendas and your recommendation. So I won't go into too much details about the bylaws because we're going to cover that later. So this was just a brief overview of the history of how we came to be, and I'm open to any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, seeing no questions from the committee, I will invite public comment at this time.
Hello again, everyone. Still Heidi. I wanted to let you know that the 5 points that Francine was referring to that you have in your current bylaws were developed at community meetings that people most negatively impacted by the criminal legal system were afraid to attend. So we know in the canal, the people who are most over-policed are Latino men, and they were not at those meetings. And so I just wanted to share with you, we had a community meeting in November in the canal that the Marin Justice League hosted. And we heard it was about 70 folks. They didn't know that this work was going on or that this commission was being formed. But what they shared with us was that they don't feel safe when they're being followed by the police, like they're being profiled, and that the police are waiting for them to make a mistake so they can be pulled over. That they're afraid of the police and it seems like they work against them rather than with or for the community. And that there's a nuance to that. We want more bicultural, bilingual police, in that the ask isn't within the current culture, bringing in bilingual, bicultural people isn't going to help. Daisy Mazariegos was bilingual and bicultural in Guatemalan, and so was Julio Jimenez Lopez. That didn't help. So without a culture change, it doesn't matter who we bring in if we expect them to assimilate to the current police culture. So please focus on culture in your work. And so the nuance there was they want more police and bilingual and bicultural so they understand what's happening and so that there's a quick response when there are emergencies in their community and that they understand what the police are saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie Powelson, and apologize that I've been ducking in and out. It's a busy evening, but I wanted to follow up on an email that I sent earlier that I hope you all received, but it's connected with the history because I was there in the protests when all that came down with Mateo. And part of that we were also talking about in those protests was about police violence and against people who don't have housing. And as you all know, the city of San Rafael is currently subject to a federal restraining order that's enjoining many of its anti-camping ordinances. Currently, the camp integrity over in off of Lincoln is protected by a court order. There's going to be a lot of questions there that require oversight because a restraining order issued by a federal judge, that's a very extraordinary remedy. It's never awarded as a matter of right. And it is it's an issue about police accountability because that's a restraining order that's on this police department. And so as I sent in that email, and hopefully you received it, you have my contact information, but if we certainly invite the Police Advisory Council to be a stakeholder in what's going on, because right now I'm involved in working on that litigation, and we certainly want to be communicating with you all about making sure there's accountability and that the court's orders followed, and that people who are unhoused and are subject to police enforcement have their constitutional rights protected. So, so anyway, so you have my information, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this matter before I go back to the committee for any additional questions? All right, seeing none. Does the committee, committee have any comments at this time? All right. Yes. Ms. Lutz.
Did we get the email? Is that something that we were supposed to have?
So the email from Mr. Paulson was in regards not to subject matter germane to this, was about a fire and building codes appeals meeting.
Okay.
So it wasn't specific to police brutality, but we can, it was about an appeals hearing that was earlier today. That was on a subject matter that wasn't specific to police enforcement or anything of that sort, in which he referenced in his comments. If there are no other questions, we can move on to the next item, which is the section of the agenda, which is referred to as other agenda items. And so the first is the selection of one representative to serve as chair and one representative to serve as vice chair of the PAC for 2024. And so the recommendation at this time is to select the chair and the vice chair. And so I will be briefly presenting a report, and there is a staff report in your package as well that you may want to refer to. But just briefly, according to the City of San Rafael's rules and procedures for boards, commissions, and committees, the committee is responsible for selecting a chair and vice chair. And so for this inaugural meeting, as you've had been met pursuant to the Brown Act and had an opportunity to determine who your chair and vice chair would be, we're asking you to select persons to serve in that role. The role of the chair is to facilitate meetings per the posted agendas, ensure that public trust is permitted for the community to be able to comment and maintain decorum throughout the meeting. The role of the vice chair is to step in the event that the chair is unable to attend the meeting and fulfill their duties. And so as defined in the rules and procedures, which you've received for boards, commissions, and committees, the election shall be by majority vote, and the term of service shall be for 1 year, beginning in January. Consistent with other boards and commissions, the appointments of the respective chair and vice chair offices are to be rotated amongst the board members based on tenure. And so this will occur, once after this commission has been established. And so at this time, we're asking for members to make their recommendations for who they would like to see serve in the role of chair and vice chair for 2024. And so that concludes my presentation, and I see that hands are up. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Am I, as an alternate, am I allowed to make any nominations?
That is a good question in
Okay.
terms of nominations. You're unable to serve, but nominations, I'll defer to Ms. Lara.
I think that you can recommend a nomination. I think that the motion and the second should come from regular voting members, but you're welcome to participate in deliberations, discussion, if you had opinion on who you think would be fit for chair or vice chair.
May I make a nomination? I would like to nominate Mr. Davidi. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
I-
And want to recognize Member Alm.
I'd like to make a recommendation for Paula to be chair. And for vice chair, I would like to prop up Maryland and our youth, give them a role and a voice.
Yeah, you're welcome to speak, Member Alvarez.
What if I don't know who I want to be vice? What if I don't know who I want to be principal or vice chair?
So if you don't want to make a recommendation, you don't have to make a recommendation, but you will be asked to vote.
Okay.
So if you don't want to make a recommendation, that's fine, but you'll hopefully you'll be able to decide who you would like to serve as chair and vice chair, and you'll make your vote accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Can I sorry.
No. As far as instructions, are you giving instructions to everyone that if they choose to decline the nomination, that they also can do that as well?
Yes, if someone is not interested in serving in chair as vice chair, they should decline the nomination. And so they should also familiarize themselves with the role in chair and vice chair in the boards and commissions handbook, which was distributed so that they understand the depth of their roles and responsibilities. And so with that, I'll go to Member Tokalahi to provide his comment.
Oh, it's just an idea, just for the sake of everyone here, since we, it's sort of like the first time we all get to see each other eye to eye. We don't really know everyone, judging from just a short, intro that we did in the beginning. My idea, I hate to break up the actual system of how to, so instead of nominating, I'm thinking, why don't we have, because we have the names in front of you on this, because the members that are selected to be the chair or the vice chair should be member, but not the two alternate, right? Right.
That
So
is
it's
correct.
just between those 7 names.
Correct. It's just the voting members who can serve as chair and vice chair.
Okay. Does the two alternate present tonight, can they vote? No.
No.
Okay, so it's just the 7 members. So my idea is, instead of nominating out loud, why don't we have between the members, write down the name on the piece of paper, and one of you guys can be the teller. And then just, I don't know, it's just an idea. Since-
It's a great suggestion. It would be a secret vote. So it's important that all the votes are open and public, back to Brown Act, back to the parliamentary procedure. So I understand where you're going, but we'll have to have every vote be out loud and open and public.
Maybe next time.
And there is another option too of not everyone might feel comfortable in the chair role or the vice chair role. So if maybe out of the 7 members that are eligible, if you just go down one by one and indicate if you're interested in being the chair, it'll rotate. You'll be able to see your colleagues be chair multiple times, maybe before you become chair. But it is the first year, and I can understand maybe you've had experience chairing other committees in the past that that you might want to include. But I think for now, maybe just indicating whether or not you're even interested in being chair or vice chair. And we could start with that, just starting from member Alm and down through the 7 members who are eligible.
I look forward to that in the future, but not currently this year. I would advocate for Paula if I could, because Mama brought a notebook. She's prepared. And she's held a high level elected office, and I think she could be a good inaugural leader for us. I chose you, Marilyn. I think we need to give experience to our youth members. It's really, really important. I think it would be a great learning opportunity for you.
All right, Member Alvarez.
I'm not sure if I want to be vice chair or principal chair because I'm still kind of new at this and I'm not sure how well I would do, like unlike other members who are more experienced. So yeah.
All right, Member DeViti.
I just want to first thank Salama for considering me as a chair. I see as a woman with a lot of wisdom, and I just met you, and just the fact that you could consider me is a big compliment. It's very tempting, but I may want to refer to Paula. I think she seems to have more experience. I'm definitely want to be on the bench, or maybe if there is a 1-year term, the chair, or how does that work?
That is correct. It's 1 year. And so then in December of 2024, you'll make a selection.
I think I would feel more comfortable. I want to learn more. It's such a serious role, and I want to kind of maybe consider it next year if that's possible. At this point, I would thank you, but sorry.
Member Kamina.
Would you consider vice chair?
I'm open to that.
Well, I'm certainly honored to be suggested. If drafted, I would serve. I'm happy to do it, but I'm also happy to work with anybody else who would like to do that. I'm happy to be on the committee chair. Also, if you are interested in whoever is chosen as chair to shadow them so that you can learn, I think you would be fabulous. Okay.
Member Nguyen. Sorry, Member, I didn't know if you had any comments, Member Nguyen. If not, we can.
I think this side here of the boat, we all agree. I think we all go with Paula.
Well, you have to take a vote first. You have to take a vote first, and we also have to provide for public comment as well.
Right. No, this is just, experience. And then, for vice chair, I'm gonna lean on Mr. DeViti. She's packed up for the next, rotation. But we all gonna learn from you guys. Yeah, it's a process. It's a learning experience for every one of us, including our high schoolers. So.
Are there any other comments from Ms. Ruiz or Ms. Valdez before we open it up to public comment?
Yeah, for me, it will be also like Paula for chair, and I don't wanna mispronounce your name, so I would like you for like vice chair. But yeah.
If there are no, oh, yes, Ms. Nguyen, Member Nguyen.
Microphone, please.
I would like to nominate Paula for chairs and Mr. Tokolahi for vice chair. Because he kind of like very, what is this? Active, talking. So we, and then friendly too. So that's my nomination.
All right. I'm looking to Ms. Thayer in terms of,
I just want to make sure, Darlene, did you have, I have two questions. One, how do you feel?
I feel happy. Well, I am not sure the names about them, but I like to dominate here, Paula, and what is your name? David.
No, he's.
No.
Batai.
Yeah. Batai.
Okay. And my second question is, are you available for vice chair? As your name has been, I know Member Davidi has said he is available. He would be willing to consider vice chair. Would you be willing to consider vice chair?
I'm here to serve and to do whatever. I like the challenge. My whole life, it's all about challenge. I don't run away from it. I ran into it. So if there's a challenge in front of me and I have to tackle it, I'll do it, no matter what. But I also respect, other nominations. Like I said, like we all on the same boat. We're gonna rotate, and we're gonna do we're gonna do what's best for us to serve these communities. So
I just want to say I feel really comfortable with that man being a vice chair. So I don't want to make this about me or him. It's what fits for the group. So I'm equally happy to nominate him back. So this is by far, it's good vibes here. I'm not making it more difficult. I just want to let him know that if that's the direction, I will fully stand by him and support this committee.
thank you. So you're serving in a role as our parliamentarian for the moment. Just want to know that, so we've received nominations for chair from Member Kamena, and we've received 2 nominations for vice chair from Member Davidi and Member Tokolahi. So we will move to public comment, or should we?
Just right before public comment, it would be useful if both of you could maybe just say a few things about yourself, let the community know who you are so that they have any input on who would be vice chair. That would be useful as well. And if after you've heard a little bit of a background, if either of you would like to withdraw or would like to remain and be voted upon for vice chair.
Can you tell a little bit more about the responsibility of vice chair?
It certainly would be to run the meeting, to maintain decorum. So if there was a disruption or things like that, or members on the dais that were not behaving and recognized properly, behaving in a certain way or over speaking each other. So it's just to maintain the decorum of the proceedings, certainly to keep in mind the requirements of the Brown Act, and to make sure that, during the meeting that people are speaking to items on the agenda that are not speaking outside of the scope of the authority of the commission. A lot of this is detailed in the board and the commission's handbook. So again, I would encourage whomever is going to fulfill that role, understand what those roles and responsibilities are. You would also engage with Lieutenant Eberly and myself, who serve as staff liaisons, to confer about the content of the agenda. You may assist in some way of assisting us in terms of determining that whether or not we have quorum for a meeting. Certainly staff will reach out to confirm that before the meeting, but there may be a circumstance where the chair would be called upon to do that. So it's just to support the meeting as it occurs, and there may be some minor administrative functions that we would confer with the chair and vice chair on in order to make sure that the meetings run smoothly in accordance with our public meeting laws.
If I can also add, Angela's been chairing the meeting for the first meeting, so everything that she's done, just making sure that when it's time for questions, she's following the script. Staff is here to support you. We want to see you be successful. It'll be training, and we'll make sure that you're successful, whoever it is, and not just whoever it is this year, but whoever it's going to be for their very first time ever next year, and the very first time the year after that. Everyone's going to get a go at it, and we're here to help you, however, in every way possible. So maybe say a few words. Yeah, say a few words about each of you, and
Yeah,
we'll kind of go from there.
Dariush Davidi again. I serve on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, Peacock Gap neighborhood, on the board of directors, and also on the Kol Shofar Synagogue, on the executive committee. I see myself as someone with good social skills, peacemaker, building bridges. Not trying to boost myself too much, but I feel somebody who does well in awkward moments and could be insightful and introspective and hold people to their standards and still be friendly, like keep it real and still, but kind of let us the elephant in the room. So I don't know. I think I feel pretty good leaving it there.
Rituklahi.
So that's always hard to follow up. I don't know how to beat that. I'm all about the communities, pretty much. My whole working experience here in the US, here in San Rafael, it's all about voicing the needs of the folks on the grassroots level. I also serve as a board member at the Marin Interfaith. A lot of people were like, you, Fatai? Oh yeah. I'm also in the advisory board for downtown street chaplaincy. They work with a lot of these regarding the unhoused folks, communities. Most of my working experience here in San Rafael is with that population. Now I'm with Community Action Marin, and for the last 3 years, that's my job. Working with these unhoused folks, trying to assist them, getting them to a better spot, from where they are they're at now. I don't know. Yeah.
I like to withdraw from the vice chair because this whole committee about serving somebody who hasn't had a chance to serve and serving the underdog. And I know him. He would do a great job, and I think he should get a shot at it first. I'm here for long term. I'm gonna have a shot. I'm already committed with so many things. I will help him be successful if he needs me, but I'm gonna pull out. I want him to go. That's my.
And so with that, I will open it up to public comments. And so if there are any members in council chambers that wish to speak on this item, please proceed to the podium.
Hello again, everyone. Heidi. I would like to highlight what you just said when you pulled out, that it's about highlighting the underdog, about helping marginalized communities who have historically been overpoliced, which is why if the bylaws item came first, I would have suggested that if there were one person with law enforcement experience on the committee, that person should not be the chair or co-chair. And that is Paula Kamina, who was the chief law enforcement officer for our county of Marin. And I think that The reason the community wanted this commission was to really work in partnership with the police, with lived experience and the people who are most likely to be overpoliced, I hope. People of color in our community and poor people, chairing and co-chairing this committee. So I hope you will. I know a lot of you supported Paula. This is nothing personal for you, Paula, but it doesn't seem like it's in alignment with what the community asked for, to have a former chief law enforcement official be the chair of the committee. And she is a white woman like myself, and we are not likely to be overpoliced or have bad interactions with the police. So I think that that's a conflict and out of integrity with the initial hopes and wishes of community members who wanted true oversight and accountability here. Thank you.
Are there any other comments in the chambers at this time?
Como lo dije hace rato, sí, yo creo que es importante que las instituciones se adapten a nuestra cultura. Totalmente,
As
como
I
lo dijo
said
Heidi, es importante
a while ago,
que
I
esto
think
no
it's important that
no sea,
institutions adapt themselves to our culture.
si no, no sería inclusión. Si se promueve
If
una persona
not
que
so, it
tiene,
wouldn't be inclusive.
si se promueve una persona que ha estado bajo una institución,
If we
no
promote a person
tiene
that's been
sentido
under an
la
institution, it has
representación.
no sense. That
Sorry,
representation
Mario,
has no sense.
if I may, if it could be a little bit more consecutive, so after he's finished his comments in Spanish, you can then please interpret them into English. It's hard for us to hear when you're speaking over him, unlike the Spanish channel. So it's a little bit different on this original audio channel.
Got it.
Tenemos que ser transparentes y entender las mentalidades exactamente qué es lo que estamos buscando aquí.
We have to be
no-
transparent and understand the mentality of what we're looking for here.
Estamos buscando una cuestión que sí funcione. Es como lo dije anteriormente, que no sea esto demagogo.
We're looking for a situation that would really work. We don't want any demagoguery.
Tomen nuestra petición como comunidad y escúchennos.
Take our petition as a community and listen to us.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
My apologies. And so at this time, I'm going to close public comment. And so
Ahora voy a cerrar los comentarios públicos.
sorry about that. It's not Memorex.
We're going to take a quick 1-minute break so I can toggle the interpreters.
All right.
Yeah, he's good. Good, we're good. Thank you.
All right. So at this time, we've the committee has made their comments, and so far the recommendation on the floor is nomination for Member Kamena and Member Tokalahi to serve in the role of chair and vice chair. And so right now, at this time, I request a motion for the nomination of chair and vice chair for calendar year 2024 for the PAC.
So first, if we could take some comments following public comment
Oh, my apologies.
and deliberation.
All right.
I have a thought from what I heard from the community comments. And I'm wondering if the members, the regular voting members would consider that the two nominees reverse roles. That is, the individual that was nominated for chair, would they consider being vice chair? And the nominee that was nominated for vice chair be considered for chair, in having heard what the community had expressed. Thank you.
I think the whole purpose of this committee is to have the community feel heard and for there to be transparency. I would be honored to serve as chair. I would be honored to serve as vice chair. I would be honored to be a member of this committee. So I don't think it should be, I don't take anything personally. I do have a lot of experience running committees, and this is an administrative position. But I'm happy to do whatever the group feels is best in terms of serving the community. So
All
don't
right.
worry about me.
And I, yes, want to recognize Member Takalahi.
Yeah, I'm not too heavy on changing this. Like whoever is the chair or the vice chair, like our job, our collective job as a team. I'm going to start calling this a team because I play rugby and everything is a team thing. If you're not with the team, you're sitting on the sideline and I'm not going to talk to you. As a team, we're going to do this together, right? So I don't see changing roles. The thing I'm more worried about is directions. Like this is a very important committee. You know, I want to see someone with a little bit more experience directing stuff. The whole decision-making in this boat is all of us. It's not just one person. It's all of us. A collective effort, a collective decision-making, it's all of us. So having someone with a little bit more experience just to show us, guide us directions, you know, the whole buildup of everything that we're going to do with PAG is all of us. So that's just my opinion. And in my opinion, I want to stick with this. I'm happy to be the vice chair, and I'm also happy to have Paula lead as chair. So,
Are there any other comments from members of the committee at this time? Member Al.
I made my recommendation based on knowledge of Paula's tenure and history, and recognizing that it is an administrative role, the chairperson. And I think we could learn a lot as committee members of what Paula could lead us on just managing the meeting. That's what we're voting for.
Any other comments? Yes, Member Valdez.
When we were asked to be part of this committee, part of the instructions on, I don't know how to call it, it's like we don't have like something like bias. Is that how you say it? In like he said, it's not that Paula is gonna make all the decisions. No, I'm not a voting member, but it's like he said, it's like we are gonna work together. It's not just Paula is gonna say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. So I think it will be like great if she's our chair. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the committee? All right, seeing none. So if, guess I'm calling the question in terms of the nomination, if we could hear a motion to nominate by one of the members for chair and vice chair. And yes, Member Davidi. Yes, one of you, one of you will have to formulate the motion.
I make a motion to nominate Paula as the chair and Tokolahi as the vice chair.
Can I have a second? Oh, sorry, I was off. I was on mute. Sorry. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. And so we will call them by roll call. Lieutenant Eberly,
Member Alm,
Yes, for both.
Member Alvarez,
Can I say that I want,
You can abstain, or you can say no.
what is it?
Abstain means like you don't want to share. No means no. Abstain is more.
I want to abstain.
Member Deputy,
I vote yes on both.
Member Kamina,
Yes.
Member Nguyen,
Yeah.
Mem-
Yes.
Member Ruiz,
Yes.
Member Tokolahi.
Yes.
and so the motion passes by a vote of 6 ayes and 1 abstention. And now we'll proceed on to discussion of community co-created bylaws, and the recommendation from staff is for the committee to provide feedback on the draft bylaws. And so I'm going to invite Ms. Turner Kittredge to facilitate this discussion, but to provide a brief overview, again, once again, consistent with the requirements of the city's boards, commissions, and committees, all boards and commissions committees must operate under bylaws, which are ultimately approved by the San Rafael City Council. And your package is a series of draft bylaws that we're asking for you to provide feedback at this time. Again, you will not be making any sort of action to adopt the bylaws. The action to adopt must be by the City Council. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Turner Kittredge to kind of guide you through the process of providing feedback.
Thank you again. Congratulations to Chair Kamina and Vice Chair Tokolahi in your new positions. So we're going to put something on the screen, I believe. As we're moving forward and looking at the bylaws, I'll just kind of reach back to what was mentioned earlier, that the current bylaws as they are presented to you right now is really just the foundation of what the committee will start to be. I think it's in your agenda packet, and hopefully you guys had the opportunity to look over those things. So I'm not going to go step by step over every point, but just really focusing more on committee responsibilities. And it talks about the functions and the duties of the commission. This is the area where you will always draw back to. So as you're moving forward and you're going through your agenda, when you're going over the items that will be presented to you, when you're talking about how to improve the police department and the work that the police department does with the community, you always want to just come back to this section of the bylaws. So hopefully we can get that pulled up because I didn't print it.
One moment. We're just having a little, so apologies. We're just having.
It's okay. But I will mention briefly the 5 areas that are on the board. By no means are you completely stuck in that area. The reason why these were brought up first was because based on some of the conversations that took place in the community, this was a common theme regarding what the community wanted to see, especially in association with how the police department interacted with them. So it is most important that we do not miss these as we work forward to look at how you're going to start populating your agenda and the things you want to address. Those particular buckets was improve safety and security, most specifically when it comes to the police department and their interaction with members of the community, build trust, improve accountability, increase diversity in the workforce, and also increase cultural competency. So if you could imagine, any one of these could be a variety of things that could directly address how the police department deals with the community. It could be policies, procedures, as well as practices. In order for you to better understand and make recommendations in these areas, is really important for you to become as knowledgeable as possible with not only how the police department does their work, the policies that they currently have in place, the laws that dictate those policies, but also how those particular things interface with the community. Because what you're doing is standing in the gap between what the police department is currently doing and how that's implemented into the community. So you can't have just one side of the picture. It's very important that you understand and know the police department policies are typically dictated by law. So you want to make sure as committee members, you're not making recommendations that are contradictory to law. So make sure you're knowledgeable. If there's something that you don't understand, ask for a presentation. If there's a reason or something that the police department may be doing or a policy they may have in place and you don't understand why it is that way, ask for more information. So do not be deterred by the current bylaws that are in place because there is a lot of work. I mean, a lot of work that can be done with what's currently in place. So you almost want to become subject matter experts, if you will, not only in community needs, but also in police practices and rules and everything else, so that you can make very sound recommendations as you move forward with the powers that have been invested in you. So really, I'm more or less here to answer any particular questions that you may have, hoping that you all went over this ahead of time. Just from my experience that I can draw on, being that I've worked with several different commissions, committees throughout different cities, as well as oversight in different jurisdictions under different bodies. So if you have specific questions for me, or if you want to talk about any particular part of the bylaws, we can go into that. But as staff mentioned, these are pretty much the foundation. If there's things that you want to discuss, then that would be captured and then brought to council for consideration.
Yes, and so I want to recognize Member Locks.
Working on bylaws is a kind of like an ongoing process since we're starting out. I mean, we're starting with to develop bylaws. And I'm wondering if this is something that we could do as a subcommittee and then bring back the information to the full committee for consideration and then going forward to the, to the staff and so forth. I don't see, there are areas that need to be discussed, but like you said, individuals need to be educated about various things. I have more experience maybe than others in drafting bylaws on multiple committees. And so I can't see us saying one or two items tonight. And then what do we do with that? Then we wait until next month and do one or two more items? I mean, I am trying to understand the process of actually formulating a amended draft.
So does staff want to answer to options when it comes to process? If it's more important to figure out specifically what areas are of question, and then we could probably flesh those out and then bring those recommendations to council is how I would recommend it, but maybe staff can speak to it.
So, I mean, and ultimately anything that you would recommend would be presented to the council. In terms of procedurally, whether or not you want to set up a subcommittee to do that, that's certainly within your purview. It's certainly within your purview to continue the discussion in a further, an additional meeting if more deliberation is needed. But it's basically, I think it would perhaps be helpful to see if there are questions before we proceed to supposing the need for establishing a subcommittee or any sort of action. So I would recommend that members of the committee, if they have specific questions, perhaps we entertain those and then we see where we land. But I see that Ms. Lara also is about to speak, so I'll give her the floor.
I just want to point out too, a little funky Brown Act fun fact is that if you do appoint an ad hoc committee, it will be a Brown Act meeting. It will need to be agendized. It'll need to be a public setting similar to this. If this body chooses to appoint a committee, then it'll be a Brown Act committee. because this committee is, so Member Locke asked, why is that? The reason, the reason for that is because if the body appoints a committee, that's what makes it a Brown Act committee. There's a few reasons for subcommittees or ad hocs to be able to meet not in a public setting. One of those would be if they're appointed by the body, they become a Brown Act committee. If it's a standing meeting, meaning the topic never ends, that would be a Brown Act meeting. If it's just a short, if say, for example, staff chose to select a few members on our own to really get into the bylaws in an ad hoc format, that would not be a Brown Act meeting. That wouldn't be. But if this committee was to appoint an ad hoc committee, it would become a Brown Act committee.
I have a question, if I might. Is there a timeline that we have to finish these bylaws by? Is there?
There isn't a timeline that you have to finish the bylaws by. Certainly, the bylaws kind of set the framework for your work going forward. And so there may be some consideration about that. So the further you get ahead as the work of the committee, absent bylaws, without that foundation that Francine was just speaking to, there could be some issue with that. There could be some issue with that. They're not immediately coming to mind, but again, the bylaws are the foundation and they encapsulate the role and the organization of this committee. And so I wouldn't recommend proceeding for multiple meetings absent the adoption of bylaws.
Like scheduling, because that's
Right.
one of the things you'll address. So you want to make the community aware of the set schedule you all have agreed to, and just really talking about how you intend to move forward. But keep in mind, like I said, this is the foundation. That doesn't mean that as things come up, that you can't necessarily pivot. So let's say that you make an idea that you're going to preset your agenda for the next 6 months, let's say. I know some of it will be training, but there may be a particular area that you say, we want to tackle this first because it's on the forefront of what the community concerns are, but then something happens in the community. You can pause that particular thing and say, we're going to go ahead and pivot and move in this direction to address this issue. So do not feel like, that's why I said this is really more like the bones. Don't feel like it stifles the work that you can do.
My thought was, since except for Salama, seems to be the bylaw queen, that we're newbies at this. Maybe we should ask if anybody has any major objection to the draft that is here, with the understanding that maybe as we're beginning to just accept the draft, and as we proceed, make any clarifications or amendments. I see a not no over there, but I'm just thinking so that we can get started with doing the business of the committee. But I certainly, it's just a thought. And then my hope is that we will get educated with a lot of the policies that already exist so that we know how we can deal with them.
If I may interject, just with the idea of going through, and if anyone objects or doesn't object, we could do that. It would need to take place after public comments. And that's when the deliberation and comment section would be.
Yes, Member Locke.
When I was introducing myself, when I had said that I have been part of the Justice for Marin grassroots committee that worked with Chief Spiller, with many of the staff, including, I'm losing my thoughts. Christine, thank you. Our city manager. And we in April 6, 2023, had actually come close to a concept that came from you folks, a concept. And this concept has some language in it that I don't see here in the bylaws. And I think some of that language we might want to put in the bylaws to begin with. And so all of the team hasn't had an opportunity to know the stuff that we've done already. We're not starting on base one. We're starting already, we're on second, maybe on our way to third base, and kind of bring this thing to fruition. So I don't know if sharing the concept that we had come to, sharing that with the new members, is something that will help with background information, and then maybe questions can be generated. And that would help in formulating the final, or I should say the amended bylaws, not the final, but the amended bylaws. Because as the bylaws stand right now, I'm not comfortable with the bylaws as they stand right now. And to start with, I would like to consider the name as a start of change to the name of the committee. And that being in our concept, we had talked a lot about, since this was a community oversight committee that was being developed, that I think, and it was on the concept paper, Community Advisory and Accountability Committee, I would like to see as the name of our committee. Just take off the word police. Community Advisory and Accountability Committee. So that the focus is community, and it doesn't say anything more about anything except the community hears that the community is the primary word for the name of this committee. And I think that that's extremely important.
If I may, I'm just going to hop in just to try to get a little bit of direction, because if we start getting into wordsmithing, we'll be here, you'll never go home.
Oh, okay.
But I just want to make sure that while those comments are great, because we need that feedback, the action before you this evening is to provide feedback to staff.
Yeah.
So there won't be any recommended changes. We're not going to be changing anything from the document, because ultimately, as it was mentioned, it'll be the city council's purview. I think right now, a good place to start with this conversation is just initial thoughts of the bylaws, views of the bylaws, which is exactly what you did. I just want to make sure that we are framing with 9 members and 9 voices. We want to try to hone in on what we're looking for. And we will want to open public comment also, but questions and answers right now is going to be what we're looking for. Then we'll open public comment. And then after that, we'll return and any feedback on the bylaws that have been submitted right now. And just, I was packing my items because I will be leaving soon, but I will say that when this returns to the city council, the voice of all of you is going to be included in the community engagement section. So what that would look like is this was presented to the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. We received the following feedback with regard to this section, to this section, to this section, and then ultimately there will be a staff recommendation, but all of your feedback will be included in the staff report. Ultimately, the decision will lie as stated in the city council.
Can I make a clarification point, Madam City Clerk?
Yes.
Just briefly, on process and what you just said for tonight and for the co-creation of these bylaws. I think from a process perspective, giving staff, staff, your feedback after public comment about what you like, what you don't like, would be really helpful for us. And then from a process perspective, we can take that and we can mark up the document that we have, like just to be really concrete about it in track changes, and try to incorporate that feedback for you and then bring it back to the next PAC meeting so that there can be we can't do that like 19 times, but I think having a feedback loop where we hear you, we take that in, we make some revisions and then present it for another discussion is another option for process.
Okay. Did you have something to say? No. Are we presenting this each month to the council?
No.
No. Oh, okay. So we have time to work.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So just as a clarification to that, Lindsay was referring to the city council because ultimately, when the bylaws are complete and finalized, they have to be adopted by the city council. So that would just be the next step in formalizing them and kind of codifying them for the committee.
Thank you.
I understand what you're saying, and it sounds like we have some issues with regard to the wording. And as you said, none of us want to be here probably all night long. So do you have a suggestion as to what the best way to proceed is in terms of which words we want and which we don't, and which ideas we like and don't?
So right now, we're at this section of questions and we're providing some questions, answering
Okay.
questions about process. But if you have specific, once we have the public comment, if
Okay.
you have, specific comments about things you do, like we can take that feedback and incorporate it
Got it.
into a later draft that could be brought back. But my recommendation still stands that we do not want to proceed too far along as a committee absent bylaws, and with the council conferring on them so that we can begin more in earnest the work of the committee. Are there any other comments from the committee before, or questions from the committee before we move on to public comment?
May I ask Ms. Locke a question? So I have no problem with your suggestion about naming, but my thought is, this is a committee that is supposed to give direction, hopefully, to the police department. So how would you convey that? There's a whole other document. Are we permitted to?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I feel, I don't know how we can do an ad hoc committee, but I feel that the committee needs some education. And you're asking us to go back sort of like individually and get this education as to how to proceed and what to look for and what has been done already, been considered prior to. I don't see how that can happen, because I feel like I'm four steps ahead of everybody, and I have some suggestions to make forward for consideration, but nobody has had the opportunity to know what those things are. So I don't know, Okay, we can do that.
If there was something that you would request to be in the package for the next meeting, we can provide that, and then the committee can deliberate on that, which aspects of the recommendations that you have that they want to incorporate into the draft bylaws that would be forwarded to the council for review.
But I do recommend for the areas where there is not an issue, we solidify those at least with conversation now, so that if there's going to be more deliberation on other things, that's done, because the bylaws have a lot to them regarding scheduling and everything else. And those are things that you don't want to wait too long on, because while we're in this meeting room now, this may not be the permanent meeting place because there are conflicts and everything else. So just keep that in mind.
And in addition to that, I understand that there was a process by which bylaws were created earlier, but the council has adopted a standard format for bylaws that this committee would have to acknowledge and follow as well. So just want to keep that in mind. The items that are listed in the order in which they're listed is consistent with every single board and commission and committee within the city. And the reason that they're done for consistency is that there's predictability across boards and commissions and committees in the city. So just want to keep that in mind as well. If you consider think about any sort of feedback or changes that you may want to make to the draft bylaws.
So any specific questions of me?
Is this the time for me to make the suggestions of
No, we're going to
change,
do
or-
the public
We have
comment
to do
first.
public comment.
Oh, okay.
Francine, can I just clarify something about this question section? Just to reiterate, this part of the agenda is for any one of you to ask us as staff questions about what's in the draft bylaws. So for example, if you read part of it and you're like, I don't understand what that means. What do you mean by that? This is your opportunity to ask clarifying questions about the draft that we put in the packet before you. It's really just a starting place, because it's really hard to start from nothing. So we thought we would draft some things that we thought would be would be a good starting place. So procedurally, it's, do you have any questions about it? If you don't have any questions about it, then we move to public comment, and then you can come back and have more deliberation, and then have an opportunity to go through, if you choose, and offer feedback. When I say offer feedback, it could be like Salama suggesting a change to the name of the committee. It could be anything in that document that you want to give us some input around, yes, I want to include this, or I want to, if you're missing something, can you add something about this? Those are the kind of examples of the feedback that we're looking for from you tonight. So if there's no more questions about actually the document, looks like maybe there is one. Okay.
I've got a few. Just going through the document point by point, maybe I just want some clarifications on definitions, which would help me get my mind around it. So the first bullet point, act as a sounding board. Define sounding board.
So the way typically oversight will work, sounding board is a place where the community can come, as you've witnessed here, and they can voice their concerns in what should be a safe space for them to do that.
It was a reference to provide community feedback, propose police programs and priorities. Where are we getting this feedback? Is it primarily here in this space?
It can be in this space. It can be in your everyday environment. Like it was mentioned before, some of you come from the Canal area. When members of the community know that you're a part of this committee, they will come to you and say, hey, this is something you need to be aware of. We definitely want you to elicit that information from them. The only place you have to worry about Brown Act is when you're discussing amongst each other. So you can't say that whatever position you have on what they're telling you, that you're representing the committee because you're a sole member and you guys act as a body, but you can definitely listen and gather information from what you hear in the community.
How do we merge the community feedback that we're receiving outside of that with agendized items?
So you would ask staff to add something to the agenda.
Got it. The next bullet point, make recommendations to the city council regarding police policy procedures and best practices. So what is the vision of city staff on where we fit in that swim lane on developing policies and procedures? I have a healthcare background. All of those policies and procedures are based on law. And we go through like an annual process of re-reviewing them constantly. Like, is this still germane? Are we there? And are we expecting us to be inserted into that process of review, or are we just going to be developing new policy and
So
working
I'll
with
say a
that?
quick bit and then I'm going to pivot to the chief, but just letting you know, for those of you who are not familiar with law enforcement, like I mentioned before, the policies are based on law.
Yeah.
They don't change as often as you may think, but there may be a policy that the police department is working on that directly impacts the community, and the police department may say, we want the community's input. So they may bring that to the committee to say, hey, this is where we are, this is what we're working on, we want you to provide input.
Yeah, excuse me. And I think it's twofold. So I think you'll see items that staff will bring forward to this body for consideration, for feedback, for input, for your perspective. And then we will also facilitate opportunities for you to identify things as it relates to our work in the community that you could advise on as well. So we anticipate that to be a facilitated session. Hey, you know, if we have a 6-month work plan, as we stand up this committee, there are training opportunities and mandates and other things to explore, but we also want to have a facilitated conversation to find out what's important to you based on feedback that you've gotten from your constituents or whatever perspective you bring to the table. So I think it's both.
Can I add just an example and a clarification? I think that might respond to your question. And to add on to what Francine was saying, the formal policy that the police department don't change very often. There's, you know, and we're going to provide education about what those are and how and when they change as we move forward. But as an example, the sounding board, like how do we define sounding board? Like what does that look like? How do you operationalize that as a committee member? A few years ago, after the murder of George Floyd, there was a nationwide campaign called 8 Can't Wait. And it was 8 police reform measures that were recommended. I can't remember exactly who came up with them, forgive me. But at that time, the city convened a community working group to serve as a sounding board on the very specific topics that the 8 Can't Wait campaign was bringing forward, because we wanted to get community input. And there was a policy change that was recommended out of that group. It was an informal group, not like yourselves, but a more informal group. And there was a change to the police policy around chokeholds, which was a very controversial topic that came out of that situation. And so something like that, what Chief Spiller was saying is if there was something that either we felt we wanted your input on, or there was, something to that effect, we would bring something that to you and say, we really want to get your input. We want to hear from the community what they think about this new initiative or a reconsideration of a provision in a policy. But my expectation is not that you're going to read the hundreds of pages of police policies and learn them all inside and out and that would be really onerous. We want to support the committee in identifying the specific policies and practices of the police that you'd like more information about. You can make information requests from the city, from staff to say, we want we want some data about, whatever it is. And then we could bring that back to another meeting and have more discussion that way at your request as well.
And, our discussion of policy might be enlightening to you as a training topic, how we manage policy. We use a policy administrator that ensures we're adhering to current legislation, that we are mindful of law enforcement best practices. And then, of course, there's department-specific policies because San Rafael is different than Novato, et cetera, et cetera. So a training block or an overview of our policy administration will be helpful, and will probably bring things to your mind when we have that conversation about areas that you may want to explore in the coming 6 to 12 months.
So in follow-up, I would hear that we have a stakeholder in our San Rafael specific policies, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. But I do have some more follow-up questions.
Committee member Elm, I apologize. I have
Yeah.
to toggle the Spanish
Sure.
interpreters. If you give me 30 seconds. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. You're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Next bullet point, present a report at city council meeting regarding the activities of the committee. My question is, what's the expectation on how often? And then format, like, are we just giving a PPP, grand jury style? Like,
Staff will help with that.
okay,
Typically it's an annual report, but we didn't want to limit you to just an annual report, because you may have things that come up where you work on particular projects and you want to give a presentation on the results of that projects, especially if there are recommendations associated.
few more. Going through the 5 points that were found, the thing I really wanted to go in on is number 4, increase diversity of the police department. And I wish Consul was here, but and I don't want us to get in the mix of disciplinary things, but as a committee member, if I would like to be involved in the hiring practice, they're not employees yet. Can we work on a stakeholder on inserting the PAAC in interviewing new hires and also having a stakeholder in promotions within the department?
I think that's a very good recommendation, and that's something we will bring forward to the council. And I know that speaking with the chief prior to this group being stood up, it was something that the police department was open to, at least having the community having a role in the hiring process.
Appreciate that
for me.
Sorry, chief.
I'm glad. That's really important. I think that's where we can make the most impact, is having our thumb on the scale on who we're hiring within our department.
And I will also mention, because you kind of have the department that you have currently, and talking about culture and representation, with the current department that you have, there is probably also an opportunity for members of the PAC, if not the PAC itself, to go out and really just talk to members of the department about what you're learning and the work that you're doing as well to make them aware and really just demystifying oversight in general.
And one more. Thank you.
It's your last one. I'm just. Go ahead.
The last bullet point, promote public interest and understanding of the police operations, policy priorities, community relations. Is there a model for our committee on how we are going to promote this? Like,
So typically speaking, when you think of oversight, when you go out to the community and have conversations with some of the things that are happening with the police department, what I learned, what was most important is educating the community on how they should be treated, because a lot of people don't know policies, procedures, just like you're becoming aware and you're going to grow your knowledge of department processes. You have to take that back, because when things are happening either between the police department and the community needs to be aware of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. Some people will just accept things because you're talking about someone that's in a position of authority or power, and they won't necessarily seek to explore, was this appropriate for me to be treated this way? And if it was, why, or whatever else. So this body definitely has a role in going back to the community. So you will create that model as you learn what works best for San Rafael. There is no perfect model. There is an organization called NACOL, which is the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. There is so much information on that website. If you just go there and look at and see what other agencies are doing, what works for them, and just get some takeaways.
is there budget for us to become members?
I think there's an opportunity as this body matures. I think there's a lot of opportunity. Your police chief would love to see a couple of, I'm not in charge of everything. I'm not the king of the world, but I would love to see members of this committee attend a conference, to be exposed to these conversations as it relates to what other police departments are dealing with, and to be in a workshop and see, what, to realize the juxtaposition of what's happening here in San Rafael and what other practices law enforcement agencies are engaging in. So while I don't have the ability to cash that check right here, right now, this is something that I think as this committee spends time working to help us improve, I think that's, for me, a no-brainer. So I'll ask my boss for some budget money later.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
There's probably not a questions, but I want to piggyback on what he was saying about the opportunity to grow as a member of this committee, to learn and experience what's going out there. And I would just start on our neighboring counties, or neighboring cities like Novato, like Marin City, what's happening in the rest of the county to start with. We want to identify who's who, who's doing what. For us as a committee, we want to grow here, but we also want to know what else is in the rest of the, our surrounding cities in the county. We want to take in as much as we can learn, and then with feedbacks and recommendations and in our own meetings, which is something I also looking forward to growing, doing this work with you guys. So, and of course, for our folks in the communities. Yeah.
All right, are there any other additional questions before we move to public comment? Seeing none, we'll open it up for public comment. Please approach the podium if you have any specific comments at this time.
Past my bedtime, y'all. Okay. I don't know exactly where to start. I would encourage you all to be careful about the bylaws, because as Francine said, they're sort of your guiding principles for what you're going to be up to. And it's very specific that you're only advisory. Novatos is also only advisory, and it doesn't do work to protect the community or listen to community voice. So I hope you will not take the lead from the PARB in Novato. The community is pretty upset with that group. The sheriff's office is working on an oversight commission coming soon. So that we worked with NACOL on. So hopefully that's something you can look at. I really think that this committee should be able to receive complaints from the community when people don't feel safe coming. I don't think they'll feel safe coming to Paula, but others on the committee, yes. And to receive a report on complaints to analyze the trends. So you all know, like, when people are unhappy with police services, why? And you can look into policy. I think it would be really important to look into the use of force policy along with their training policies, because as I mentioned earlier, there were 2 field training officers on the scene when Julio Jimenez Lopez was brutally beaten by the police, and a new trainee. And so that's the culture issue we're talking about, and also the training. Like, what does the training look like that led to this? And Corporal Ocon's testimony in court still supported using escalation as a de-escalation tactic, which Chief Spiller said in his release letter of Brandon Nail is not appropriate and is not trained, which gives you like an area that you might want to dig into to help protect the community. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this item at this time? Seeing none, we will go back to comments from the committee.
You just want to acknowledge, all these comments from the public, and this is what we want to hear. This is why we're here. We want to hear your opinions, what you see, what's going on. It's our first day on the job, and we'll take it. We'll run with it. We'll talk amongst us. And I'm sure we'll come up with something. Yeah, but I just wanted to acknowledge, all the public comments, like you here in the space, sharing your concerns, ideas and recommendations. So thank you. Yeah.
So I'm going to go in reverse order just to see if we can, so we can get the breadth of the committee. And so I'm going to start at the end with Ms. Valdez to see if there are any specific comments that she has on the draft bylaws at this time, just to make sure that we're judicious with the time that we have. So I'll just ask if you could provide your comments at this time, and I'll go to Member Tokolahi after that.
I don't have any questions at the moment, but I think I need like more information about all of this, but I don't have any specific questions at the moment.
Can I clarify? What we're looking for is, do you have any comments? Like, is there anything in the document that you wanted to give us, something that you would want to add or delete or change to the document, is what we're trying to do in this round?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the clarification. So to everyone, add additions, deletions at this time. So because what we're trying to do is to be able to come back with a revision. And so to be responsive, we need you to kind of, with the information that you do have, provide that feedback. So to Member Tokolahi. Vice Chair Tokolahi, my apologies.
I'll just go with Tokolahi. No, I don't have anything.
Any revisions? Okay. Member Ruiz, do you have any revisions, additions, deletions at this time?
Not right now. I think I'm going to review again, and I'm going to read again. And I'm going to translate for I would like to understand better. And right now, I don't like to change nothing.
Member Nguyen, do you have any revisions at this time?
Well, I don't have any comment, but tonight we have a lot of information. So I would like, I want to know if we have documents about the meeting tonight so I can read again and think about that.
Okay.
In email or send officially. Oh. Yeah. No, you have it. Yeah, but, so is that on the
Yes.
paper that we receive the emails? That's
Yes,
it?
yes. And it's also a part of the agenda package that was posted to the city website.
Oh, okay.
So to member Kamena, do you have any revisions or at this time?
No, I've reviewed it and I'm actually comfortable with it the way it is, but I'm certainly open to suggestions to listen.
All right. Member DeViti.
No changes, just again, thanks for the opportunity to serve the city. Thanks.
Member Alvarez.
For right now, no.
Okay.
No changes.
Member Alm.
I do have one suggestion I would like to add to Article 3 of the meetings. That we codify Indigenous land acknowledgement at the opening of every meeting that we formally have. That we give Indigenous land acknowledgement, that we open every meeting with that.
That is something that you can do in the agenda itself. That's something that the city council does at every single meeting. I'm not sure if it needs to be codified in the bylaws in order for you to do that. That is something that the chair, consistent with the mayor at the beginning of the meeting, could do. And so you can incorporate that into the agenda. But I can confirm that if it needs to be codified in the bylaws. But you could proceed at the next meeting, if you so wish, with the chair reading the same acknowledgement that Mayor Kate does at the council meetings.
If it's an opportunity that we could add it to the bylaws, I would like that.
Understood.
Madam Assistant City Manager.
Yes.
If I may, we're hearing the desire to spend a little bit more time with the draft document.
Correct.
I would recommend that we allow the committee the time between tonight and our next scheduled meeting, or what we will adopt as our next scheduled meeting, to go over this, to identify, spend a little bit more purposeful time to identify if there are any concerns, and maybe come back more prepared to identify what those recommended changes, deletions, additions would be. And we could agendize that for the next meeting.
Oh, no, that's what we're leading to, but we just wanted to see for tonight if there is anything specific that we would, in anticipation of the next
Okay,
meeting.
I just want to make sure that the committee's comfortable that they will have the opportunity to spend some time with the document.
And Member Locks.
Oops, thank you. It's something, I don't know. I would like to submit the areas for change to the staff for distribution to the rest of the members. And so I'll work on the areas that I would like to amend and send that forward to you. So then you can distribute it to the rest of the members. And I think I'd also like to, well, there may be one or two other documents that I'd like to submit that the rest of the members get a chance to review. And I guess I'll confirm that with the staff, yes. You know, like the concept paper and so forth.
All right, so at this time, understood that we will we'll continue this item to the next meeting, and to provide the committee members additional time for review and deliberation. And just confirming that Member Locks will provide information that staff will distribute to the committee in advance of the meeting as well. And I want to recognize Chief Spiller.
I just channeling the absent clerk, I want to make sure that you know, what we visit is open, transparent, and public. So we may have to have you read that into the record at our next meeting, rather than disseminating your comment offline.
May I have a clarification from the city clerk on that? and this goes for anybody, if you had information that you wanted to submit to your fellow peer members, that you can submit that to the staff and the staff can include that in the
As a
staff
package.
report for the next meeting.
Yeah,
But it can't be just emailed
Oh.
and distributed
Oh.
to the whole group.
So,
So
Right.
mm,
Thank you for that clarification. So when I was saying that
oh,
we will receive it, it will be in the agenda package. So not only will the members of the committee see that, the members of the public will have that written information as well. So there'll be no, any of the information that you provide will be understood to be included with the next agenda and staff
Okay.
report.
Is it?
Perfect, but I'm trying to understand how well, we do get the information about a week before. I'm trying to see or understand how we can educate the rest of the committee, but you think a week before would be enough?
Uh,
I mean, that's what we have to do is what we're saying. We can't have I guess we can't. Okay, I got it.
Right.
That, it'll just.
I
It'll
mean,
be a
that's-
week before that they get the information and then they will be educated that way. Okay.
So there's a cutoff date that you have to get things to staff. We're gonna get clarification on the actual cutoff, because it's usually even before a week before the meeting. With the intention, when you receive your agenda packets, the intention is that you read it and go through it, and then you have the conversation here. So it's not that they're necessarily gonna be completely educated just by reading the document, but any conversations that take place have to be in the presence of the public.
And so, yes, just want to reiterate, it's in everything that you receive, we present to the public so that they have the opportunity to have the same information that you have, and so they can be informed as they make their public comments. So again, channeling the clerk, channeling the assistant city attorney that made their presentation, that information will all be publicly available. And yes, please, it is the requirement or the expectation, as volunteers, as community members, that you read and you do perform your due diligence in advance of the meeting so that you could be prepared with your questions. And so that we can respond to them in as much as we can. If there are individual questions that you have in advance of the meeting on an agendized item that you want us to be prepared for, or that we can answer perhaps even in advance of the meeting, then you can reach out and do that. But again, it's the expectation is that the materials are your homework. And this is to the community, you're presenting your opinions and you're providing your questions. And so staff can inform you and can inform the public in real time.
So a follow-up on the noticing time, and because this meeting is a public Brown Act meeting, the requirement is we have to post it 72 hours before. That's the minimum. It doesn't mean we can't provide that information sooner to you. So we could provide it a week and a half prior to the meeting if you would like, so that you'd have more time to consider that before you come back to the next meeting.
And so to Member Locke, so if you have that information, so the sooner that we have it, then we can package it for a next meeting. I don't want to commit to a specific date at this time because we have there may be other agenda topics that we need to get to as well. But the sooner that we have that information, and the sooner staff can do the administrative work and coordinate with the clerk's office on the posting of the package. Yes, Member Valdez.
Also, I think that you have to consider, like, they have to translate everything into Spanish. So yeah, we need more time. Yeah.
Understood. So we're not taking any action at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We're in motion to the content. So I need a motion and a second to continue this item to the next meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. And the next item on the agenda is to talk about scheduling a meeting. So if someone on the committee can make a motion and someone can follow up with a second, that would be requested at this time.
I'll make your first motion.
And I need a
I
second.
will second the continuance.
Thank you. Moving on to the roll call.
Okay, for roll call, Member Alm? Member Alvarez?
Yes.
Member Davidi?
Yes.
Member Kamina? Member Nguyen? Member Ruiz?
Yes.
Member Tokolahi?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, sorry, my apologies for being on mute. With that, with a motion of 7, the item will be continued to the next meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. And so moving on to the next item, which is adopt the 2024 committee meeting schedule, and the recommendation from staff is to review the meeting schedule for 2024 and revise as necessary. And so just briefly to the staff report, we've tentatively identified the third Wednesday of the month as a potential meeting date. And so what you see before you is a possible schedule. And so, as with all boards and commissions and within the city, they adopt a meeting schedule typically in November, December of each year. And certainly, as with all boards and commissions, the committee needs to have a predictable meeting schedule so that the public can plan to participate as needed. And so the staff can have an idea of the timeline for preparation for each committee. And so at this time, that concludes my presentation. And so I will ask the committee if there are any questions about the proposed meeting schedule, again, which is to meet the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. And the location is right now we have is tentative. And so I will take any questions that the committee has at this time.
The only question I have is in terms of time length of the meetings. Is there a set time frame, or are we just open?
So there isn't a meeting cap, right? And so to the extent that you all have been able to freely deliberate, as well as the public to come and speak. And so the speed in which the meeting goes will depend upon the item that's being considered and then an amount of public comment, but we don't set a cap typically on a meeting time. I'm not aware of any board or commission within the city that does. Any other questions? Member Locks. Oh, I want to give the member Davidi because he's spoken minimally.
Just curious, how many sessions are we allowed to miss in case some kind of emergency comes up?
That's actually in the draft bylaws. And so you haven't, so that would be something that you would consider is how many meetings, all the boards and commissions within the city have a clause around attendance. And so I would recommend that you refer back to that section of the document and if there are any recommended changes, bring that to the next meeting.
If I could add to that, the basis of the language in the bylaws that exist now are consistent among the other boards and commissions and committees. So it wasn't arbitrarily picked for this group. It's consistent with the other groups.
Are there any other questions? Member Locks.
Are we agreeing tonight? Are we going to be agreeing upon the scheduled Wednesdays?
Yes.
If we have any conflict with any date, are we able to change that at this time or not?
No. I mean, so again, the purpose of having these boards and committees is to have predictability. If there are some, my recommendation would be that if it's the second Tuesday or the fourth Thursday, that you arrive at that and not make the dates appear arbitrary so that the public can plan for their participation and attendance accordingly.
There just is one date out of the 12 that I have a conflict, so I didn't know.
Well,
I guess that'll be an absence.
It's
if I may, you are allowed to miss a meeting with an excuse. So it's not as though you're voted off the island, so to speak, if you miss a meeting. But, one of the questions that was asked in the screening is that like around availability. And so it is expected, and I would refer back to the bylaws to see what that draft language is. But one meeting would not disqualify you from participation. And even so, there would be a process if someone's absences became excessive. There would be a process by which there would be some consideration for removal. I'm not aware of any sort of recent circumstance where that's occurred, but you can, if there's a need to miss a meeting, but again, we need predictability to the meetings.
On the county level, I am used to, if there needs to be a change, you make the change and you notify the public. That's all I wanted to say.
All right. Are there any? Right. No, if there is a, and so there's, and yes, I understand that there's special meetings, but at this time we want to at least get a cadence of meetings for predictability. And I would also add that if for whatever reason, if there was a holiday or something needed to shift, that could occur. But right now we just want to establish, and the recommendation right now is the third Wednesday to meet. And so, yes.
Could you check on June 19th? Because I think it's Juneteenth and I don't know if we're off for a holiday on that day or not, but would you check your calendar on that one?
Actually, you know what? We will
June
have
19th,
to, we will have to,
Yeah.
and if there are, and so if you also note, in the bullets, it says meetings are typically held on the third Wednesday of each month unless the meeting date conflicts with the holiday. So then that becomes a special meeting by default. So it will be scheduled as a special meeting of the at a different date to accommodate the holiday.
So like she says, if she absent from one meeting, she can watch on the video for a meeting, right? We
So the
have
meetings
video
are
meeting?
recorded. Yes, the meetings are recorded. And so if somebody was unable to attend, again, we would check to see, we would ask when we call for a quorum that you let us know your availability up front so that so we can say that when the chair does the roll, they'll say Member Nguyen is excused rather than to not show up. Because if you don't let us know of your availability and then let's say, 3 of you show up and there's no quorum, then a meeting can't proceed. So it's really imperative that when one of the staff liaisons reaches out to you to say, when are you available to meet or when are you not available to meet, that you, we understand that emergencies may occur, but that you are fairly clear about what your availability is. Again, because if members of the public attend, take time away from their families, away from work to attend, it's, again, we want to, a lot of this, what's been presented today, whether it be with the Brown Act, whether it be with the boards and commission bylaws, and certainly with this question around meeting schedule, is we need to have a process that creates a certain level of predictability to function as a committee so that the work that Francine mentioned around the policy and the community engagement can occur with a foundation, again, that's predictable, at least administratively predictable for the public as well as staff.
Is that possible? I can ask the document can translate to the Vietnamese, so I can have a Vietnamese come to the public and have a idea or concern if they want.
If you let us know in advance, we can, right now, what we've planned for is for Spanish translation, but we can have an offline conversation if there's a need for a language interpreter for Vietnamese. We can certainly coordinate that. We would just ask that we do that in advance. The plan right now is definitely to have consistent Spanish language interpretation, but we can have that conversation. Any other questions? Just Member Valdez.
It's not a question, it's a suggestion. If we can have a 5-minute break during the meetings.
So
Yeah.
a 5-minute break during, so if you need to use the restroom, you can do so. There may, so whomever is chairing the meeting, if there's a vote, what they'll usually say is if there's a lack of a quorum, they may pause briefly for a member to return back into chambers so that the vote can proceed. So if someone needs at any point in time to use the restroom, you can certainly do that. And again, what's typically done is the chair will pause. And if there is a need for a quorum, but if you do get up and you happen to need to use the restroom or what have you, and a vote does occur because there's a quorum that's there, what will typically happen is they'll say, member so-and-so is excused or what have you, or they stepped away from the dais while the vote was occurred. But as a courtesy, and that we have our new chair who can advise on her practice as in chairing other meetings.
Well, is it inappropriate to just say that every hour or hour and a half that people get a 5-minute break? I mean, that we advise the public ahead of time and just take a break and then come back?
That could be something that the committee consider as a practice. If there's a need, I would say that I would go with the flow of the meeting and the discussion. This will be something that would have to be handled on an as needed basis, right? Because if there are a lot of community members that happen to show up for an item that they're particularly interested in, and it's getting quite hot and heavy, and it's like, oh, we have to take a break, and people again have taken off of work and they got childcare. So it would be something that you would need to use some
Right.
discretion.
I think it's appropriate to know that. And I don't think it would be used inappropriately. Thanks. Okay.
Yes. Member Oh, no. Oh, I thought you were about to speak. Oh, no. So are there any other comments before we move to public comment? Questions before we move to public comment? About the schedule, yes. Oh, seeing none? Okay, he's just reaching for the water bottle. My apologies. So I will move on to public comment.
I wasn't sure if I could talk or not, so I kind of am. Just with my experience, I thought I'd be remiss to not at least make this recommendation. I highly recommend that you take Juneteenth off. You do not have to have 12 meetings. So what we're doing is asking for your input for the schedule you want to set. I know the days is one part of it. By June, you're gonna need a break. Just to be honest. And then I also recommend you probably take off in December as well. With the holiday season right around that time, there's usually a lot of absenteeism, and it gives the group room to have breaks that are already built in without getting burnout and pretty much burning one of your excused absences. So that's just a recommendation I wanted to make sure I brought forward, that you do have that option.
And whether you call it out on the schedule or not, it would not be like unworldly to have a meeting canceled. So if you start getting fatigued in November and you want to take a holiday break, and even though we've adopted it, you can cancel the December meeting as an example.
Or if
Ideally,
we're finally going to get a vacation in April.
yeah. Ideally, the body would meet at least 10 times during the year.
So just to clarify the feedback on the staff recommendation and another option to what Francine was saying about holidays, Juneteenth is an official city holiday, so City Hall is closed on that day. So I think whether you decide you want to take June off, or we could move it to the next day, to the 20th, which is a Thursday, if the committee felt like they wanted to have a recess time over the summer, if that, so we're really just looking for that. Does the third Wednesday of every month generally work for everybody? Or like what we wanted to know, for example, is do any of you have a standing commitment on that night where you really couldn't make that third Wednesday work on a regular basis?
And so at this time, are there any additional comments on the committee regarding the proposal for the third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. and it could be any sort of tentative recommendations around dates? Again, you don't have to decide that at this time. Again, we're just trying to create some predictability, but if you are ready to make, to advance a motion at this time to say that there won't be a December meeting or there won't be a such and such meeting, that's something certainly that the committee can entertain at this time, but we just want to, again, establish a meeting schedule.
Well, I really appreciate Chief Spiller's suggestion that perhaps we not have a June meeting and a December meeting. I don't know how the group feels about it, but I would be happy to move that we adopt the schedule for the third Wednesday of the month, except for June and December.
I'll second that.
All right. And with that, I'll ask Lieutenant Everly to call the vote.
Thank you. Member Alm,
Yes.
Member Alvarez,
Yes.
Member Davidi,
Yes.
Member Kamina,
Yes.
Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Member Ruiz,
Yes.
Member Tokolahi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we are on to the staff liaison report, and staff has no report at this time. I'm looking over to our Chief Spiller to see if he has any reports.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
And so our next item is commissioner reports, where if you have attended any meetings, conferences, or seminars germane to the work of police accountability, you would make those reports at this time. And so I'd ask if anyone has attended something related to that work. Yes, Member Locks.
I think a member of the community had mentioned that
Member
Uh,
Locks, I apologize. I just got a text from the interpreter. Can you give me 30 seconds? And they need a break. I apologize.
okay. Offline, can I just say something offline? Shouldn't that say committee reports rather than commission reports?
It should. It should.
For f-
Yeah, we can. We'll change it for a future
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
couldn't vote on the agenda, so anyway, I did note that it should be committee. Thank you.
This goes to trying to keep a hour and a half meeting. I'm trying to keep a half hour change and it's very difficult. Okay, we're good to go. Thank you, guys.
Ready? Okay. I just want to say I did have the opportunity to, and I think that the member Heidi from the community did comment on it. And I just wanted to share that there's always learning in everything that you do, at least I feel that I do. And I just wanted to share that we did meet with the community at the canal area. And we passed out an ACLU, Know Your Rights, Police Interactions for Black and Brown People. And I would say that members of this committee need to have copies of this. They can look at it online. It also comes in Spanish or in Spanish. But I was shocked to understand, and I just want to share this. Don't forget that police are legally allowed to lie, intimidate, and bluff. I find that just shocking to know that is a legality. So in educating ourselves, I'm saying to our committee here, there's a lot that we need to learn about what police can do and cannot do. And we need to educate our community on what the community can do and cannot do. And I do have red cards in English. I have one in Spanish that I can pass to the members of the committee if they want one. I don't know if I can pass that out. Maybe I can.
If you give it to staff, then we can distribute it. Are there any other committee reports? All right, hearing none, I'm going to adjourn the first inaugural meeting of the Police Advisory and Accountability Committee. A meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.